Joining me now, Democratic strategist and former advisor to the Obama campaign, Amisha Cross, and Brendan Buck, MSNBC political analyst and previously served as press secretary to former VP candidate Paul Ryan. Welcome to you both. Good to see you, as usual, on a weekend. So, Brendan, what did this interview convey to you about Harris's strategy?
Well, it ended up being the world's most anticlimactic interview. We were waiting for weeks to have this, and it was pretty pedestrian as far as interviews go. It left me wondering, why she hasn't been doing this fine. She was fine. As a matter of politics, though, I mean, she's clearly very committed to this message of being a mainstream Democrat, trying to rebut the image that the Trump campaign is pushing as her as a far left progressive. She clearly had to figure out how to explain flipping on a lot of positions. I think her answer was fine, that she's learned a lot, her values are the same. I don't know that there is a good answer for changing position on a number of important things, but I think she got through it just fine. And the message she is trying to convey is straight from the convention. I'm somebody you can trust. I'm not a far left progressive. And she's just going to hope that people are buying that she's authentic and sincere when she says that.
So, Amisha, Harris was asked about the historic nature of her run and that viral photograph of her great niece watching her acceptance speech. And this is what she said. Take a listen.
I am running because I believe that I am the best person to do this job at this moment for all Americans, regardless of race and gender. But I did see that photograph, and I was deeply touched by it.
Will she speak more about her identity as a Black and South Asian woman, and how does that factor into her broader appeal?
Well, there are two things that are going on here. I think that as somebody who happens to be a person of color, I don't think that she has to wear that flag and carry that banner everywhere. People see her. They know that she's a woman. They know that she's a Black woman. She has talked about her Asian heritage as well, being an Indian woman. And I think that for her, this is who I am. This is what I embody. I should not have to explain that. She's sticking with the policy. She's creating that and expanding that big tent that the Democratic Party is known for. She's also bringing in people of multiple generations, people of multiple backgrounds, religions, some people of other parties as well, people who fell out of the political cycle in general. All of those things are what matter. I think that Kamala Harris does not want to get bogged down in what appeals to the right, which is this anti-DEI mantra, which is this racist rhetoric. She wants to lead with action. She wants to lead with her policies. She doesn't have to tell people she's Black, biracial. She doesn't have to tell people what her historical background is. They can look at her and tell those things. What she's trying to do is rise above some of the attacks I think people have seen before her. She understands, she comes as someone who has seen what Barack Obama went through. She's someone who's seen what the first Democratic female presidential candidate went through in what we saw with Hillary Clinton. At this point in our nation's history, she's running against the backdrop of anti-CRT, anti-DEI, reversals of hard-fought civil rights wins. She is in the lane that she needs to be in. Yes, she's going to talk about her heritage, but no, she is not going to get bogged down in it, and she's not going to allow it to be something that the right uses as a weight against her. And I think that that's smart policy.
So, Brendan, Harris stood by President Biden's record, in part because it's also seen as her record, right? But as she preps for the debate, there is some tension within her team about how to separate herself from Biden, especially on issues like the withdrawal from Afghanistan. How does she walk that line?
Yeah, I think the difference is not necessarily a difference of policy, but more of tone. Her message is obviously much more optimistic, much more inclusive. By contrast, Biden's message about democracy being at threat was kind of dour, a little depressing. And so she doesn't necessarily have to break with him in substance, but she can present herself as a very different person. I think the other dynamic is she is able to talk about being mainstream, down the middle, because she has credibility with the left, and the left knows that she is, they don't have to worry about her. Whereas Joe Biden always seemed to be trying to convince progressives that he was someone that you could get excited about. And he had to, he was sort of coded center himself. It's the reverse here. I think she is probably needs to prove to people that she is not too far left, where he was always trying to do that. And so just the way that they present themselves, even if the substance is all the same, the way that they present themselves is different, and I think it's really working for her.
So, Misha, something that we've frequently seen during his campaign is Trump's inability to focus, to be specific, or to stick to the facts. Can Harris highlight Trump's rambling and his mental state in ways that Biden wasn't able to?
Absolutely. And I think she can do it cogently, and she can also do it in repetition. We see that Donald Trump has flip-flopped on everything. He just took back his stance on abortion rights when it came to the Florida policy that is going to be on the ballot in November. We see time and time again, this is somebody who says one thing and then does something else. This is someone who can't remember what he said 3 days ago, so he revises the policy on the fly. This is someone who is known to, go into attack mode immediately when he does not want to answer a question, or when he is inciting his MAGA base to be violent against journalists. I think that she has so many entryways where she can speak to Donald Trump's actions, but also who the man is. And she's going to continue doing that throughout the campaign trail. But she has to balance that with her own policy ideology and where America is going to go under a Harris-Walz administration. Those are the things that she's doing. It's not just about who you're running against. It's also about why people should be voting for and invested in you. And I think that that's the bigger piece of what Kamala Harris is doing on the campaign trail.